All right, guys, we are here. This is week 4 of the Spring Sculpt, and John and Abby are joining me. And we just wanted to record another video to answer some of the questions that have been coming up in the community group thread we have, and maybe just a couple other topics too, as we inch closer towards the end of this challenge. What's next? What are some strategies to continue on? If you want to keep working towards your goals, you're not quite there yet, or you're just really enjoying this and you want to continue on. So we'll talk a little bit about that as well. So that's where we're going. But I just posted something in the group chat and just asked if anybody had any questions. So we're just going to knock those out right off the bat, because a couple people did post some really good questions. So Heather Madison, hang on, my page is refreshing. I'm just going to read her question. Okay. Abby, you can respond first because she calls you out. Abby dissed BCAAs and electrolytes in the last video, and then she did a little winky face. Any recommendations for flavoring water? I'm not a fan of lemon water, so BCAAs and electrolytes sweetened with monk fruit or stevia have sometimes been a way for me to change it up. Thoughts?
Yeah, I'll start. I'll take it since I was called out. I don't remember officially dissing them. I think what may have been the context was maybe under the umbrella of supplements being unnecessary. And I think I probably threw BCAAs under that umbrella of not necessarily where you want to spend your energy and resources, financial resources. I think a couple of things. I think if you were somebody like her who says the plain boring water just doesn't do it for me, and I'm really trying to be more intentional, and if that's why you're using BCAA powder, knock yourself out. That's lovely. Go for it. I think that's totally fine. The same thing is true for, I am not anti-electrolyte powder. Just ask Joe. I keep it with me at all times. And
I cramped in a workout the other week, and Abby came to the rescue with her powder and poured it in my water bottle. I was like, here, take this.
Liquid IV is something that we keep at home and use frequently, especially in the summer months. And so I'm not opposed to things like liquid IV or that. I think, again, my thing with BCAAs particularly are they are expensive and they get touted as some magic potion, and they're not. And I think that's the angle that I was more concerned about, is that's not where, if you were going to pick a supplement to invest in, my choice is always going to be whey protein as the choice, as opposed to something like a BCAA. But if you like it because it makes water easier for you to drink, other ways to make water more enjoyable. I know it gets overused as an example, but making your own sort of water infusions, whether that's with, especially as it gets closer to summer, fresh mint, fresh basil, finding herbs to, flavor your water with. You can buy those pitchers now that have the infusers in the middle where you can put fruit and herbs and all those sorts of things and make the water taste better on its own, are options. But I'm not going to hate on any option that gets more water into your body, period.
Yeah. And that's really helpful. And I was just laughing as I was drinking my Kool-Aid, but I think, yeah, BCAAs are on there, and it's funny. It is a marketing thing that has become, it's supposed to just be good for you. So anyway, John, what's your take on BCAAs and electrolytes?
Yeah, I mean, I think in this context, I totally agree with Abby. I mean, if you're using them as a means to flavor your water and to get more fluid intake, yeah, have at it. BCAAs, I think they're really only beneficial for those that are in a severe caloric deficit around the workout time in order to preserve as much lean muscle tissue as possible. If we're eating at maintenance or just below maintenance, which is where ideally you would want to be if your goal is to lose weight, right? If your goal is to lose weight, we want you to eat just below maintenance and to make small dietary changes incrementally. And so if we're eating that many calories, BCAAs really aren't going to do us any bit of good, even if we take it during our workout or after our workout. So and I know that they're touted as a muscle building supplement. And for those that are, eating over their maintenance, trying to put on muscle mass and eating more calories than they need to maintain. So I put myself in that group most of the time. BCAAs are even more worthless because we have so much protein breaking down in our body just from our diet alone. We don't need a supplement with more BCAAs. But if you're using the flavor profile to flavor your water, yeah, go for it.
There is some that I was looking, if you saw me looking around, I was looking for, there's a book I have that I remember this being in one of the chapters. It does talk about, and I don't have like the science to quote this, but if you were somebody that, you're in a deficit, right? You're eating lower calories than what you're used to, that sometimes choosing BCAAs, to sip on them throughout the day as part of like your water intake can help with hunger management. I think it's because of one of the, is it leucine? Not that I can't remember, but one of them is supposed to like help to keep you from being as hungry. I don't know if that's like anecdotal data or there's actual research for that, but I have heard that's another reason why that can, you could choose to do it. But by and large, the benefits tend to be like over touted, like big picture. But if you like it for water, go for it.
Yep. Cool. So big picture, yeah, go for it. Electrolytes, go for it. Susan asked, I would like to know the difference between collagen protein and whey. Can collagen build muscle? John, since Abby started the last one, you kick that off.
All right. So you're going to get some speculation from me because I haven't had any time to research this topic. So forgive me if I spout some incorrect facts. Maybe Joe or Abby can correct me. So collagen is not a complete protein, while whey is. So I'm just going to compare the two kind of back and forth. Collagen, I don't remember which of the 9 essential amino acids it's missing, but it's missing an amino acid, therefore it's not a complete protein, while whey has all of the essential amino acids included in it, like all complete proteins do. What collagen's claim to fame is kind of like hair, skin, nails, joints, and cartilage. So if you're looking to repair joints or keep your tendons in a healthy state, then collagen supplementing with collagen peptides is supposedly going to help in that area. But I enjoy, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, well, I was going to say it's derived from skin and hair and bone of animals, right? And that's where
it depends on, there's different types. There's like marine sourced versus like, I mean, like there's different forms of it.
All right. Well, okay, go ahead, John.
Yep. So whey is comprised of, well, it's a whey protein. So when we look at milk protein, it's going to be 80% casein and 20% whey. Whey is a fast-acting, easily digestible milk protein derivative. And if you were comparing which of the two can help me build muscle faster, I would certainly supplement with whey over collagen. But I will say collagen, it just mixes easily in food, coffee, yogurt. It mixes a lot easier than whey. And if you get the unflavored brand or the unflavored collagen, you can't taste it. Like you put it in your coffee and it tastes like nothing, where whey has a very, they all are pretty much flavored and they all have a distinct taste. But if you were going to supplement with one in order to build muscle, I would use a whey powder. But also don't think of it as a muscle builder. Just think of it as extra protein that you can get in your diet. It's really a food. When we think about whey protein, it's just a food. It's a type of milk protein.
I think that's a great summary and a clear distinction. I think the big picture, I think do I track it or do I not? Meaning, does it count? Like, yes, it is technically a protein. Like John said, it's not a complete protein. It is missing one. I had to Google it, John, as you were talking, so that I could find the answer out. So it's missing leucine is what it's missing, which interestingly is the primary amino acid that contributes to muscle protein synthesis. And so it's like the one that's like lacking. And so Do you track it? Yes. Can it be counted towards your overall daily total intake? Yes. But, it's like big picture. I shouldn't be relying on this as my primary source. Honestly, whey or collagen, neither one of those should be relied on like as a primary source, right? We always, collectively, we believe first and foremost, real food, right? Meat and dairy, or like wherever you can get like actual protein from a food source is your best bet. Complete proteins. But you can count this, but just realize like if your number one goal is to like stimulate muscle mass and to put on lean muscle mass, you definitely don't want the majority of your like supplemented protein coming in the form of collagen, because it's missing the main ingredient that would make that possible to begin with. So I think of it as like, I usually get a scoop of it a day in some form. Like I will throw it in, if I'm making oats, like this morning, I had oats with my scrambled eggs. I always just throw a scoop into my oats, just to add a little bit of extra, but that's not like, I'm not counting. That's a very small percentage of my overall day, I guess is my point.
Yeah. Like you're getting all of the essential amino acids throughout your day. So having the collagen, especially when I have collagen, I like to have it mixed with like a dairy, like yogurt or milk.
I like it in yogurt as well.
Or at least just like I look at my overall picture of my day, and just like what you guys are saying, it's not my primary source, but I know I'm getting the other essential amino acids most of the time, other times throughout the day. So it's not like your body like keeps it all separate, It at some point works together. Does that make sense?
It's probably placebo, but like in my mind, I do feel like if I don't have it consistently, like I feel like I feel like my joints don't feel as good. That's probably completely in my head, like it's placebo, but I personally do incorporate it. But again, just you don't want to get the bulk of that, rely on that.
Yeah, I'm wary of like anytime something like that is really used as a marketing ploy, like this product has collagen in it, it's going to help your hair and nails. Like if that's why you're buying it, I would, I personally wouldn't spend my money on that. I'll just say that, especially if it's like in cream, like non-food items, like creams and lotions and shampoo, whatever. Like my opinion is that's probably mostly marketing. So anyway, okay, let's move on. I'm going to refresh that page, just make sure we're not missing any other questions. While I'm doing that, I know we have had just some conversation in the chat about like, especially this past weekend, which makes sense. We're over halfway through the challenge. It's exciting at first couple weeks, and then reality kind of sets in, and maybe you lose a little bit of momentum. You miss a meal and you start to get off track, and that definitely happened to several of us this past weekend, I know, myself included. So maybe if we could just talk about some strategies for, I really got off track this past, you can just use me as an example. Like I went camping this past weekend, didn't track, definitely got off track. Mother's Day, I at my brother's house, I didn't track anything and definitely had some desserts and things like that. So I definitely felt like I was off track, and it is harder to get back on the train for sure. So what are some strategies, some motivation to not just completely go off the rails?
Yeah, I think one of the tips I always tell people is like, the way you get back on track is at the very next available chance. Meaning, I think sometimes the danger is to be like, well, like that Mother's Day like ran over into Monday, so now I'm just gonna like let this week sort of be off track, and then like I'll pick it back up. It's like the very next meal is the chance to get back on track, right? So like even if that means I didn't log for 3 days, like the very next time I'm about to eat something, that is the time to get right back on. And it doesn't matter if that was dinner tonight. It's like, who cares if you didn't log breakfast or lunch? Just pick back up at the next available opportunity. I think that's one thing. I think the other thing is to be cautious that you are setting yourself up in a dynamic of all or nothing, which is I'm either on track or off track. And even that language, I think sometimes lends itself to like this tendency to be like, I'm on or off. And I think that can set people up for failure. And so instead of the skill in coaching that we often talk about is called reframing, which is like taking something that's happening and putting it through a different lens or perspective of like, it's not a failure, right? Like I don't have to name it as such. I don't have to call it that I'm off track. I can reframe that and look at it as like, I enjoyed my Mother's Day. And it was what it was. And now it's Monday and I'm just going to like start tracking. Like I didn't fail. I didn't sabotage it. I don't have to make it bigger than what it is. And I think that's often something that happens. People get into that polarizing one way or the other. I think the third thing is it's a simplified analogy, but like if you have a flat tire, nobody gets out and slashes the other three, right, on purpose, just because like one is flat. But we do that sometimes with our diet and tracking. It'll be like, well, I didn't log breakfast, so like let's slash the rest of the day and like screw it, I'll pick it back up tomorrow. And that's where one day then becomes a week, becomes a month, and like things do start to get off a course. And so I think be mindful of your mindset around it and just pick back up at the next available chance.
Yeah, that's helpful. About you, John?
Yeah, I love that, Abby. I love that analogy as well with the tires. I definitely agree about the very next opportunity getting back on track. And I would even say, you can take that even further. And so if your goal is to lose weight, lose body mass, whatever your goal is, if it's to lose weight and on Sunday you had a rough day, you can come in under calories Monday and Tuesday, right? Nobody says that you have to eat all of your calories Monday and Tuesday. Have a lower carb day. I use carb cycling to my advantage in this instance. So if I'm going to adjust one of my macros, it's going to be carbs. I don't really want to bring fat down because that's really hard. I don't want to bring protein down. I need that to maintain muscle mass. But carbs I can bring down for a couple days and I'll be fine. So bring your carbs down appropriately, just for a couple days. And that's how I, for lack of a better term, get back on track. Just have lower calories the next couple days and you'll be fine. And also recognize too that, it's not a big deal. At the end of the day, or let's say at the end of the week, is really what you should be having your eyes on is at the end of this week, did I eat toward my goals? And if I had a higher Sunday, then I can just bring the next couple of days down.
Yeah. I think that's really helpful to remember the net effect. I think sometimes we think in 24-hour increments and the body doesn't function that way necessarily, right? It's like, zoom out a little bit and think about just because Sunday or Saturday and Sunday were, splurges or whatever it looked like, that doesn't mean that if we think about that in a 7-day window, there's still lots of opportunity to sort of negate that effect, right? Without needing to and we're not talking about like starving yourself or anything crazy like that. It's just being a little bit more mindful of maybe my intake is going to be a little bit lower on those days to kind of make up for it.
Yep. That's helpful. A couple just little mental tricks. I think this is like what you would refer to as reframing, Abby, that I use if I do have a day like that where I'm just going to enjoy myself and not really think about quantity as much. I like to tell myself, and some of this is like, is it really scientifically true? Maybe kind of, but maybe not, but it doesn't really matter. I'm just reframing it. Man, I'm going to have a really great workout the next day because I have a bunch of fuel in my body.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so that I reframe it as a positive, like, all right, I'm going to crush this workout. And then another one I'll use, and this is the one where I'm like, scientifically, I don't know, but hey, I ate a bunch of calories yesterday, so my metabolism is revved up. So now it's going to be more efficient at burning whatever else I eat the rest, the next couple days, which I probably not really true, but it's like a positive reframing of like, okay, I just rev my metabolism up, just cycling a little bit,
I've often quote, if anybody is watching this that has coached with me before, they've probably heard me say this a lot, but I think it's also like remembering that mentality of like, we are athletes because we train the way that we do, and athletes, like they eat and they train, they don't diet and exercise. And I think like remembering that sort of mentality of like, yeah, so like if I was like a professional athlete, like, I mean, this would just be like a blip. Like, who cares? Like, I'm just going to pick right back up and keep going. I'm not dieting and exercising. That's a restrictive kind of punishing mentality. Like, athletes eat and train. And it's like, okay, like, don't make it bigger than what it is. And like, just pick up and keep going.
I love that. I'm gonna clip that. That's going on the social medias right there.
The
awesome.
other like easy thing I'll tell people is like dipping down in the valley that's life, right? It's cyclical. But what is in situations like this, you're gonna like dip down, but like when you're in the valley, like don't set up a tent and decide to park there and stay, right? Like that's where you get off track. It's like you made the decision of like, I veered. Okay, well, now I'm just going to stay here. I'm just going to like permanently set up shop, and I'm going to live in this space of I'm off track. It's like, just don't let yourself park there. Just keep moving.
Love it. Love it. That's so good. You guys, it's amazing the level of experience and expertise, and just like, I can't think of a better word, but the coaching and athlete maturity that we have at CrossFit Spring Hill with our coaches. Maybe it's because we don't have a bunch of like 20-year-olds who just got out of, getting their training certificate or their exercise science degree, but haven't really experienced life. But like, I'm just reflecting on some of the things Abby just said and John's been saying, and we're really blessed to have Abby, John, the other coaches. Like, I just want you guys to know, like, this, it's not normal for a CrossFit gym to have like this many high quality people and coaches. And John and I were talking about this past weekend, even membership. I mean, you guys, just fantastic people who all have a lot to add to encourage one another. And it's awesome. It's awesome. It's good stuff. Sorry, that was my little tangent. Just thinking about that. Grateful for that. Okay. Let's see. So let's talk about, I'm just looking at my notes. Let's go ahead and talk about, so we're midway through week 4. Next week is the last week of officially being in the challenge, where we're all going to be on the app together. We have those daily tasks to check off of, did you track? Did you hit your calorie goal? Did you hit your protein goal? We kind of know there's people who are going to be checking in on us. So the question is, what's next? Yeah. Post this 5 weeks. Let's just say I have enjoyed it. I've seen some progress, but I still want to see some body fat loss. I still want to build some muscle. What are some strategies or options to keep going? And we can talk about options with like working with a coach, but even just if you were going to go continue doing this on your own, let's just start there. What would be some things you would be thinking about, John?
Yeah, I mean, definitely if you're, depending on if you wanted to go the coach route, either Abby or myself are certainly more than happy to help. I see it as very beneficial because basically we would send you kind of a questionnaire and get a lot of information from you as a client and just kind of determine where we can best help. And it's going to be a lot more in depth than the Sculpt challenge that we're currently working with. So that's exciting. If you didn't want to go the coaching route, I have enjoyed tracking these past 4 weeks, and I think that I'm going to continue tracking. And just, I do believe that dietary changes should be made very incrementally, very slowly, because it's an adoption of habits, right? And I've been paying attention to like the other macros that we didn't get into during this challenge, your fat and your carbohydrate percentages versus your protein percentage, and how that all fits into your overall caloric goal. And, you know, depending on what athletic goals or composition goals that you have, you may find those levers to be beneficial to pull. And so that's kind of one of the things that I'm playing around with. And so you can certainly do that. And then there's different methods too of kind of stepping back a little bit and enjoying a little bit more flexibility. So there's more like, you know, like the eyeball method, where you're kind of looking at your food, you're looking at your plate, and you're ensuring that maybe your protein, if you're going for about 20 to 30 grams, fits in the palm of your hand. If your carbohydrate source, you know, is kind of mirrors your protein, your vegetables are about twice that, and your fat is just about as big as your thumb on your plate. So how do you build a plate using the eyeball method without using a scale, without using, you know, a logging app? There's a lot of different routes that you could take depending upon, you know, your level of commitment and kind of what you want to get out of it.
Yeah, I agree with what John said. I think the other option we could talk about is, and this is something that we're sort of deciding to roll out at the gym as an option. So I think a lot of us enjoy group accountability, right? There is something to be said for not feeling like it's just yourself, and it's nice to sort of crowdsource and like connect with other people and like hear other, like there's accountability, but there's also just like connection and feeling like I'm not the only one doing this. So we've toyed with the idea of launching some small group coaching, where it might be like a group of 3 to 4 people working with a coach. And so the price point would be a little different than individual coaching, and would sort of be a more involved than like a challenge, but not quite maybe as individualized as one-on-one, but sort of like that blended model. It would be somewhere in between those two things. And so if that's something that you're interested in, let us know, because we're open to launching that. So again, coaching is always an option. I'm always going to be a fan of coaching. I think even coaches need coaches, right? We all need accountability. And I think without it can be hard, especially if you're working for a very specific goal. I think the other thing is to continue is to track your progress, right? And remembering like, what are those different, the scale is deceptive. It isn't the only indicator of progress and success, but I think at least tracking, I've harped on weekly average weight. I really think that's important. If you have a healthy relationship with the scale, and you can do that, where you can weigh yourself daily and then take that weekly average. There's an app called Happy Scale. It's a free app where it will track, you enter your weight every day and it will give you your averages. And so it's a nice tool to use. If you are in a deficit and you're trying to lose body fat, like that weekly average weight should be trending down, right? Getting scans at the gym, which I think is another good way. Progress pictures, right? Are you taking pictures? Are you noticing strength gains at the gym? Are you paying attention? Are you being intentional about weight increases? Are you PRing? Has it been months since you've PR'd? Other markers for progress to keep yourself moving in a positive direction. I'll say this too about tracking. When I'm not tracking, I still keep a mental protein number running in my head all day of like, and I will still weigh a lot of things, even if I'm not tracking it. Because again, like I am not great at looking at a piece of salmon and being like, that's 6 ounces. I always still put it on a scale, even if I'm not putting that in an app. It just helps me with accountability. And so I still choose to use my scale year round, even if I'm not putting that information in an app.
Yeah, I definitely do that too, Abby. I weigh my protein and my carbohydrates with each meal.
Yeah, those are all really good. I think a common theme that I hear from a lot of people who aren't weighing and measuring all the time, aren't specifically tracking calories or macros, but still are able to maintain what they want or are reaching their goals, is tracking protein, whether it's actually weighing it or using that eyeball method and just making sure I'm getting 30 grams of protein at 4 different meals throughout the day, and then a couple snacks of 20 grams, which if you do that math right there, 4 times 30 is 120, 2 20-gram snacks. it's 40 more, so 160 grams per, like for someone like me, like I try to eat more than that, but that's basically what I do when before this challenge. And I hadn't weighed and measured and tracked for several years up until we did this challenge. I've really enjoyed it. But that was the only thing I would really focus on. But then one thing I want people to get to, especially as we're wrapping this challenge up, is make sure you're paying attention to what your eating habits are during this challenge. And what you don't want to happen is the challenge ends and then all that stuff completely goes out the window. It's like,
Yeah.
Think about when you're making a plate, even if you're not actually weighing and measuring or using the palm method or eyeball method, just like, okay, I know now that fats are very calorically dense. So I just need to be aware of that. Like, maybe I'm not going to get as much fried food as I used to. Maybe I'm not going to, because has a lot of fat in it, a lot of calories. Maybe I'm not going to put as much cheese on this as I used to. Maybe I'm not going to put as much butter or oil in this as I used to. Those are just some examples, but just like staying mentally engaged in some of the things you've had to think about during this challenge, I think is helpful. But that's that's really good. So John and Abby both mentioned one-on-one nutrition coaching. That's an option. Let us know if you're interested in continuing with that. It is, it's higher accountability, it's higher touch, it's more personalized for your goals. And then, this small group idea is something we've been talking about. So if you'd be interested in continuing kind of like a version of what we've been doing, but an even smaller group, and like Abby said, a little more attention and help from a coach, let me know if you'd be interested in that. One-on-one nutrition coaching month to month is $160 a month. The small group, we're still kind of kicking around what that would be, but it would be less than that. So if that's something you'd be interested in, like maybe continuing for another couple months, throughout the summer or something, just some added accountability to stay on track with you, 2 or 3 other people, and a coach, let me know. Just send me an email or message or talk to me at the gym. Be like, hey, I'd be interested in doing that possibly. Cool. We have a couple other questions and things written down here, but I actually think that could be a pretty good spot to end. Maybe we could record one more of these next week with some of these other things, looking towards summer and vacations and strategies for traveling and eating out more and all that kind of stuff. Did either of you guys have anything you want to add before we sign off?
No, I'm good, Joe. Thanks.
Yeah, I think so. Keep the questions coming. I feel like that's I love to be able to answer those, and I feel like it's super helpful. I think other people benefit from like hearing their each other's questions and continue to submit those. Yep.
All right, guys. Well, it's been fun. We're looking forward. We still stay strong. We still have about 10 more days. And like we've said, if you have questions, anything we can help with, reach out. And we'll record one more of these next week, and we'll talk more then. See you guys around at the gym.
Awesome.
Bye.
All right. Bye.
See y'all at the gym.